everybody. Welcome back to our weekly live session. My name is Johannes Verwijnen. I'm a full-time instructor for deep dives, concentrating on cloud tech, development, analytics, and machine learning. And below me, I have Mikko Nieminen, a very good friend of mine, who kind of shares my background, maybe a little bit more development, a little bit less machine learning until now, right?
At the moment, yes.
Yeah, and it's time for our weekly discussion. And this week, Mikko had full responsibility for selecting the topic of the week. And Nick, what did you come up with?
Well, we've been talking about we haven't gone too deep into the technical details of various things yet, but we've been talking about technical stuff. Or maybe DevOps is not only about technology, but I was wondering if we should go and take a look into let's say, what are the important things that you should know and what you should have if you want to be successful in the field of IT. And as a conversation starter, I have here, not that one, I Googled what are the top skills in IT at the moment, and Google says, well, here are some artificial intelligence and cloud computing and programming and so on. These are valid. I think Johannes will agree with me that these are valid points. But the thing that I wanted to discuss, especially with Johannes, is are actually the soft skills that one probably should have if you want to be successful. And turns out that in my experience, the most important skills are not only, of course, you have to be, fluent with technology, at least somewhat, but it's about the soft skills as well. And there are actually quite a lot of them. Or what do you say, Johannes?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I guess, like if you would have done this Google search, if Google would have existed 20 years ago, then the results would have been very different. Whereas, so these kind of technical skills that we're seeing here are definitely bound to a specific time, specific year or a couple of years. Whereas the soft skills are needed all the time, right? They don't age. So that's another thing that we're kind of interested in.
25 years ago, programming would have been on the list as well, but the hottest topics like cloud computing or artificial intelligence and so on, they didn't exist in that sense. Well, they did exist, but they weren't the hot topic of the moment at the moment. But so that's my kind of what I wanted to talk about and have a little chat with you, Johannes, about the soft skills. But if we start from we don't jump right into the topic. If we talk about, for example, programming, what do you think, without looking at any lists, what do you think is the most important programming language at the moment? If someone is relatively new to the field, what should they learn?
So my opinion, of course, is that a programmer is a programmer or software developer independent of the language, right? So languages come and go. You still know how to program. You still know how a linked list works. Kind of just different. It's a different SDK. I guess until now, and then we also need to make a differentiation between front end and back end developers, right? So kind of if you're both, if you're kind of full stack, then of course JavaScript is something that you will need and that you can actually use throughout the stack. So that would
probably
be
a good language to start with.
Yeah, it would be, you would get most benefit with the minimal amount of work, right? And then, as we talked a couple of episodes ago, another thing to consider is the performance. We're going to see more and more concentration on the performance of code. So for that, it might be good to try to learn one of the more performant languages like Rust or Go, maybe, instead of going kind of the Python route. And then again, if you're in machine learning, then you need to do Python, right?
Yeah, and actually, when you talk about performance, it's not only about the performance of the server itself; it's also about the performance of the person who is doing the programming. And for that, Python, for example, is much better for certain kinds of tasks, not only because of the language itself, but the libraries and frameworks that that gives you.
Yeah, this is actually funny. I've recently been taking a look at this. So one of the things that they've done is they've created a binding for the AWS SDK from Python to Rust. So you use the Python layer to do your logic, but then the actual SDK commands go into a Rust compiled library. And that's kind of probably what we're going to see a lot of in the future for also other frameworks. Like in machine learning, we already do that, right? We know that the actual machine learning works in a different environment than what we're using to tell it what to do. But that could actually be happening in a larger thing with other frameworks as well.
Okay, so let's suppose
did I answer your question?
Yeah, yes, you did. We're warming up here. So it depends on what your general aim is in IT. Are you aiming for programmer or to be a programmer, or maybe you're into data science or something like that? You need to, of course, be able to fluently tackle the topics and write programs and learn new languages. That's actually one of the soft skills, kind of maybe somewhere in the between, is the ability to learn and the willingness to learn.
Yeah,
because that will never stop if
that's
you
my
want
favorite
to.
one.
Yeah. And actually, the topics that we're covering here, if you ignore the obvious IT ones like the cloud computing and that, then these apply to probably quite a lot of different fields, not only in IT. So willingness to learn is really important. And if you lose the motivation for that, then you're stuck with, and this can actually easily happen if you find once you get established, you have maybe a client, or you're working comfortably in some project, and that project can go on for years, and you're not learning anything new. And that's actually, it's kind of a good thing to be every now and then in a position where you can, not to be less stressed about the things, and you don't have to worry about learning new stuff. But eventually you will get kind of you're left behind, because everything else moves forward, and you're stuck with the old, let's say, old Java versions. And all, for me, for example, easily happened if I was not interested in the new stuff. I would be using old version of Java. No, I would know nothing about the new versions, and I would know nothing about the new frameworks unless the new project that I was put into had a new framework.
Yeah, it's kind of like if people are not in our industry, they might presume that it's a bit like going. You go to school first, and then you learn, I don't know, full stack JavaScript, and then you basically have that job, and that's it. But in reality, it doesn't work like that. In reality, these frameworks that are being used change all of the time. So you're kind of constantly either using something that's already outdated or then learning something new. And this is not specific to the IT industry. A lot of industries work like that. Like, for example, if you would be in laws change all the time. So you kind of need to keep studying it, or for accounting, new accounting standards come out every year. Things change a little bit. You need to know, keep yourself up to date, basically. It might just maybe be a little bit, more obvious in IT when the whole kind of platform changes really
Yeah.
quickly, and people might be surprised by that. And if you're studying for in IT, then try to, rather than study a specific kind of methodology of this is how we do things step by step, rather think of learning kind of the generics, kind of try to generalize everything that you learn. Remember that the thing that you're using in school might not be around 2 or 3 years from now. So you might.
And most likely that's the way it goes. For
Yeah,
example,
so don't overinvest in knowing a specific framework, right?
and so that's one thing. Things do change over time, and if you're stuck with something, then and you're very good at it, you're very good at something really specific, then actually, okay, there could be a project where you are really good because you know everything about the topic or the technology, how it works. And okay, that could be, you would be an asset. But if you think about who, as a team, nowadays you are not working, the projects are so large that usually it's more than just one person who's, let's say, implementing something. There are designers and architecture needs to be done, and lots of different people working on the same topic or the same project. Let's just call them a project.
Mhm.
When time goes on, you're really technically you're the perfect person. You know everything about the how one thing is done. But who is the most important person in the team? Who are the most important people? Or is there one who's really important, or is there some other metric that really matters? And this I have learned over the years. I know the answer. It at least from my point of view,
Mhm.
uh, this is not taught enough in school, in my
Mm.
opinion. It's really a lot about the people skills as well,
Mm.
and the ability not just to implement stuff, but to be able to work with people.
Communication.
Communication, and there are lots of different ways to communicate. Like, is it verbal communication, written communication, things like that? Are you communicating with your peers or with your project manager or your clients and technical people or completely non-technical people, which is always fun? And those kinds of things are really super important. And I think, at least when I was in the university, for example, and before that, this was not. Of course, we had some project that we did as a group, yes, but I didn't realize how important the people skill part of you being a professional is.
Yeah, it wasn't really talked about too much. Although a lot of the things that you do in university kind of help with that. Like you need to write a lot of essays where you're basically taking some bigger thing and then compressing it into a readable short text that other people can then
Written
read.
communication definitely improved in the
Yeah.
university for me.
And kind of the conceptualizing, so taking a large piece of work and then taking the main points out of that and writing it in a shorter version. That's a good skill to have. So that means that you're writing stuff that really matters. People don't have time to read. Even if you're a good writer, it's about time management as well. And then, as you said, we had these projects as well. In those, I guess, at least in my time, the university way was more of kind of creating a project and then letting people kind of fail and figure out the problems while failing, right? Instead of actually guiding them on how to do things. But which it works. I used to like run from the university side on quite a lot of these projects, and it was quite funny how self-organizing they then are, and how similar the problems are that they're facing, and how similar the solutions are that they're coming up with. So maybe it's fair to say that it is okay to kind of let people try things out in a project and then learn that way, rather than give them some dry lectures on how they should behave.
And you really remember those. If you learn something because you made a mistake, you will remember that for a long time. And if it's a safe environment, then even better. But you do learn also when you're working in as an employer.
Yeah. And what's kind of interesting also in the university, I would say, or with your jobs, you kind of learn, like if you have like a hobby background and you're moving over into a professional environment, you start to see that they're actually also kind of assholes in that organization. And now you can't choose the people that you want to work with. Rather, you have to work with the people that you don't really like as well. And you need to find ways to do that.
And
Nico
then
has lots of experience of that because he's worked with me.
yeah, it's the A word that you said. Uh, but then again, people skills. You work with people who are uh, suddenly they are not your best friends or good friends that you work with, but they are just people, and people are different, and you just have to accept that not everybody is as efficient as you are, or they are way more efficient, and then you seem lazy, even if you're not. And there are people whose political views are different, or whatever is different, but you still have to work together. And that's one of the skills that, well, okay, fine. I have I've never felt that I'm completely lost when it comes to working with people. So, but I know people who are really strict with their views, and they just they are not willing to, you know, work properly with other people because they are so convinced that their way of doing things is the only good way to do. And if there's someone who's, let's say, technically less able, if we just talk about programming, because my background is with software development and programming, I've never been, or most of the time, I've not been the one who's the most like that. If you scale, put your workforce, you scale, no, you rate them, and the top one is number one. This is the most perfect. This is like the programmer. I've never been the programmer, but I would say I'm always been in the top five of an organization ish, something like that, because I'm willing to learn. I'm learning before I'm needing a new skill. I want to learn, but that I've never been on the top spot. I'm completely happy with that because I have other skills that kind of make me in different ways better than just being able to complete a programming task as efficiently as possible. For
Yeah,
example,
and
people skills. If you have if you get to choose who you work with, then people who are uh, with whom you are, let's say, nice people who are nice to work with, then people choose those, and then you have a team that suddenly is working and performing properly because there are no extra problems within the team. But so again, people skills. That's one of the things that. Uh, well, of course, this might be a bit difficult to learn.
mm,
It's not something that you just go through an online course and then you have people skills, right?
yeah, and maybe
You can, of
in
course.
the maybe in IT also, like traditionally, we had a lot of these total experts who maybe were a little bit more introverted. So that kind of comes from, being interested in computers as a teenager and then spending a lot of time in front of the computer alone, and programming and stuff. That might then actually lead to not being such a good person in social situations, right? And very often we have seen this in our history as well. there are some of these people who are really good in what they're doing, but they're really bad in any kind of social situations. So it may be we have a little bit more of that in the IT industry compared to other industries as well, which make things a little bit more tricky then as well. And I also think that maybe doesn't exist that much anymore, but that used to exist was that a lot of the management positions were kind of given to people who didn't really, or there are like two problems with managers that I have seen. So either they were managers who didn't really know much. So we used to work quite a bit in the boom years of the IT industry, where we were literally trying to like hire everybody. We just had so many open positions. And then it kind of went that, if you didn't know how to draw, so you were not a graphics guy, if you didn't know how to program, then you became like a project manager, right? Because they don't need to know anything. So
I remember that joke that if you don't know anything else, then you'll be a project manager, which
yeah.
doesn't apply anymore nowadays.
No, but that was kind of the problem in those days. So we had really incompetent management, people who would have zero industry experience, so they wouldn't understand the problems that we would get into in projects. They wouldn't have kind of history, and they didn't have any kind of knowledge except for maybe being maybe socially nice person.
And also that one extra bonus is there is that we were young at the time. So
yeah, we were of course naive as
inexperienced
well.
management and young people
Yeah.
working without realizing maybe that the management is
Yeah.
not doing their work.
And then the
Really
other
bad combination.
yeah, and then the other problem that we have, or the other mistake we've made in the IT industry, at least before, was that we started to promote like the best engineers to become like managers, like team leaders, or that kind of stuff. And that doesn't really work either, because like if you're extremely good in programming, let's say, then that doesn't necessarily make you a good manager. So there should be kind of an interest in management, and then of course some kind of social skills, some kind of empathy skills available as well. And we would actually, in those situations, we would actually reduce the output of a team by making the most productive member of that team a manager who will then have to do all kinds of paper pushing instead of actually writing code. And then we tried to fix that using different kind of matrix organizations, where we would have like professional managers on the business unit side, and then these kind of mentors on the technology side, which maybe is better, but then that doesn't really work either that well, I guess, we think nowadays. So yeah, it's a tricky thing. And I think nowadays we're much better in kind of having maybe a better generic understanding of the IT industry, so that general managers can start running projects. We have much better processes for running projects nowadays. We emphasize communication and stuff like that. So I guess we've kind of identified and learned from the mistakes that we have made earlier on into this current.
And also, as you and me, we are older now. We know and we can spot if something is off.
We're maybe a little bit more patient as well.
Yeah, maybe. I hope so. And that's actually one of the things when you're new to a field, let's IT or something else. You're on your first job. You're doing everything looks fine, but you don't even realize that things are not working properly. And when you're younger, I had a kind of not a rule, but I was on average maybe sticking for 3 years in one position, and then I just switched to another company or something like that. And that really helps to have different kinds of organizations where you work, so you really see how things are done differently. And then
Yeah.
sooner or later you have the understanding how things can be done. There are more than one way of doing things correctly.
Yeah, and
And
this was exactly like you say. This was a lot of this happened like via personal experience back then. So we didn't have as much literature available onto how to run things in the software industry. That didn't really exist back then. So nowadays, of course, we have plenty of books and blog posts about the different ways of working with. We have this whole idea of agile development and everything. So I guess the world is much more open nowadays. Maybe back then we were kind of scared of telling people how we work so that others wouldn't copy us or something like that. Right?
yeah. Okay, so that's one thing. What else? I have a list of things here that I might want to. We're talking about people skills, so that kind of covers teamwork as well. The general ability to work as a team, not just as an individual. Although being able to work without someone else micromanaging you, so that you actually are able to work alone as well, is an important skill.
Yeah, taking responsibility.
Yeah, take responsibility and know when to ask. And of course, you might not know that on the first day of your first job, but that you will learn to know. You will learn to know when to ask and not just do something and then figure out if it works or not, or if it passes or not.
Yeah, it's like I guess asking questions is also an important skill. I try
Being
to
curious.
always, I try to always like if we are in a situation where we have junior people joining us, I always try to tell them to just whenever they find a problem, instead of banging their heads against the wall for half a day, just
Keyboard.
ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've been there. We can't, when we have junior members, we can't like do a brain dump, giving all of the information we have to that new member. Rather, they need to figure out things on their own. However, most of the mistakes that they are making, we have already made. So we can help them not have to make those mistakes, or at least not have to make them as expensively as we have made.
Exactly. Other things, yeah. One of my strategies has been when you're, let's say, you're designing something in a project and you're in a meeting and someone is suggesting that let's do it this way, then I kind of make it a joke by asking difficult questions about and trying to ask questions and show that it doesn't work, or what they're suggesting doesn't work. But that would be you would be an kind of the not nice guy if you do it like that. But I started as a joke that okay, it's my job now is to figure out if it doesn't work. I do it because we need to do it, but
Yeah.
kind of break the ice first before you start to ask those questions. And usually the things that they have designed or they suggest, they are okay suggestions, but still being able to figure out or kind of hint that okay, what if this happens, what if that happens, does it still work? And if they say yes, if it still works, then it's a good design. But
Yeah,
being
those
able to and you have courage to not doubt but ask questions or show that you might not agree. That actually one skill as well, because if you just be quiet and you don't dare to open your mouth, then usually it's better if you open your mouth, and if you figure out something that's really catastrophic, then everybody wants to find it out sooner than later.
Yeah, I think the official methodology is called the devil's advocate, and this works in management in general, right? So just like always,
Be
when you're doing a
pessimistic.
project
Pessimistic
plan,
was the word that I was looking for. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, it's like if you're doing a project plan or a business plan or whatever, when you're doing a plan, then somebody needs to play the devil's advocate to try to tear open any possible holes that are there. And this is not a critique to the plant per se; it's just a part of the process, right?
But if the
it's
one
not
who's receiving
personal.
if someone is receiving as a critique, then that's the bad. I was trying to say that that's a bad thing. So I kind of make a joke that my job is to be a pessimistic right now, and I'm really open and nice guy, but I need to ask these questions.
Yeah, there is also
so
this
that's one
idea that we have been discussing between ourselves called radical candor, or that kind of, I guess, the trademarked name of somebody who has written a book about this. But this is something that is kind of very natural to us, being Finnish or Nordic, right? That we actually tell people directly what we think about their work, and then that doesn't work internationally, right? So that would be something very weird for people from other cultures. So a lot of these skills might also be culture specific, right?
Mhm.
So like in the UK, you need to find a different way of giving your critique than directly saying what is wrong with a particular issue.
This is actually really important in aviation industry. When you have a pilot, in the past you had a pilot. And this is really cultural thing as well. If you had a Japanese airline, not Japanese airline, but a company that's from Japan,
Yeah,
the pilot, what's that called? The captain is
yeah.
the big boss with all capital letters and everything, and the other people are not or were not. It was not okay for them to question the captain's decisions, and that
Yeah,
has
this is
led to really
it's even
bad
it's even
accidents.
worse in Korea. Like in Japan, they have a lot of they identify this issue, so they do things. I forgot the name of the tactic, but they kind of say what they're doing while they're doing it. There are plenty of videos available on YouTube where they're like, in the train driver is saying lowering speeds to X, blah blah blah, to himself.
I forgot the term as well. There's a term regarding that, the way the pilot and the other people in the cockpit work together. But
Yeah,
that should be in other industries as well, that it's okay to have a different opinion about something without that being kind of stepping on somebody's toes.
yeah. So this is actually a good analogy, because in the aviation industry, the captain is the one that has the experience, right? So the first officer in general is a more junior pilot, and the idea is that the captain has all of the responsibilities, and because of that, they can decide also anything. But you could take this same idea also to a software development environment, where you have more people with more experience in the team, and then people with less experience in the team, and it is the job of the people who have more experience in the team to mentor the people who have less experience in the team. And that might mean that it's beneficial to do things in such a way that you actually let the less experienced people drop, right? So like in the pilot thing, the captain and the first officer, they take turns in piloting. Right? So, and then the other one is observing. And then that, for example, would give the captain a way to help the first officer by kind of seeing when he's doing something in an unoptimal way, and then he can later on tell him, next time when you do this, have you thought about doing it this and that way? And in software development projects, the same way. Like if there is a really difficult project coming in, instead of staffing it in such a way that the most experienced person is going to do all of the design and fix all of the difficult problems, let the junior ones do it, and then have the senior support them. That way, you still get the knowledge of the senior person, but at the same time, the knowledge is getting disseminated. The junior ones are getting a lot of experience, good experiences from that. So it is actually the job of, if you are more experienced, to make less experienced people question you. And if it doesn't come automatically, then don't fix the problem. Right? Instead of giving, like it's like in university. When a student makes an error in some lab, instead of giving them the right answer, give them the tools so that they can come to the right answer themselves. And that way, we're learning. It's not like, we
Reminds me of my in school, mathematics and physics. When you go to the exam, then you know how things work when you're given the exam and the question, and then you have to actually work through the problem without any extra material, and then you actually learn your even if you think that, oh, I didn't get anything right, but you actually learned by sitting in 2 hours in the exam.
Yeah,
That's an interesting thing that happened more than once.
And we sometimes discredit the idea of learning by making mistakes. That's how we learn.
As long as it's a safe environment.
Yeah, and kind of being somewhat outside of our comfort zone. Like if we would be just doing the stuff that we know, there would be no progress. We need to kind of go into uncharted waters to be able to learn more and become better.
Yeah, that's true. When you're learning to fly, it's better to make the first mistakes in a simulator than in a real plane alone.
Yeah. And
otherwise, we wouldn't have enough pilots.
The aviation industry is a bit extreme because it's so safety oriented. That
for a reason,
maybe, yeah, it's the same as if you would make software for like a nuclear power plant. In that case, you want to have full safety.
Definitely. What else? We talked about the willingness to learn, but also the learning agility. That are you a person who actually learns new stuff, new things? Some people are faster and some people are less fast when it comes to learning, even if you have the motivation. So that's one really big skill, and really not a technical skill in that sense, that there are so many things that you can learn about. And if you're a quick learner, then you are but you're not the best person ever doing that specific thing. But if you're quick to learn new things, then you're most likely much better, more valuable asset in a company than just one who is not willing to learn, or who is not able to learn new things.
Yeah, learn how
because
to learn.
Things do change,
really.
and yeah.
And that's something that Mikko is jealous of with me, because I can literally read one blog post and then after that I can talk about that subject for a length of time.
But I see through you.
Yeah,
others don't. That's good. But jokes aside, Johannes is one of the fastest learners I've known. Not the only fast learner, but that's a skill that not everybody has, and that's a huge advantage, especially combined with the motivation of you want to learn, you are able to learn, and then there are new things that you benefit if you learn them.
And it just doesn't work with everything, unfortunately.
Yeah, of course, it doesn't work with every field and every topic, but if it supports the area where you're working, let's say IT or something else, then that's a super good skill to have. And that, in that sense, that's not technical IT skill. That's just general skill of being able to learn.
Yeah, and it helps, of course, if you have like learning becomes easier if you have like a theoretical background. So either computer science or something else, because then it's easier for you to generalize than if you're just kind of coming out of nowhere. There are so many patterns that it's
yeah. If you're studying for something that's in IT, for example. You're not starting from scratch, so
Yeah, yeah. And it's like,
you know a third of the stuff already, let's say.
yeah, and it goes to
More.
the level of like, if you kind of think of how does some service, let's say some cloud service work? Well, what you can do is you can just think of, well, how would I have solved that problem? What would be the optimum way to solve this problem? And then probably it's been built that way, right? So you can like make this kind of generalization, which is really difficult, of course, if you don't have that background or knowledge beforehand.
Let's talk about motivation. What motivates us? What are the things that motivate us? If you don't have motivation, then it doesn't matter how good you are in, let's say cloud computing. But if so, actually, in the beginning, I had this here on top. These are not, in my opinion, the most important skills. There are so many important skills that you just can't make a list like this. But if you don't have motivation to study or do cloud computing, then you're, I don't know, maybe you should switch to something else if you are working in a company that needs you to do cloud computing. But what motivates us in general? What are the things that motivate us? What do you
Well, for
get
me,
from learning new stuff, for example?
yeah, for me at least, this is a continuation of a hobby as childhood, right? So when I was a kid, I was interested in computers, computer gaming and programming and stuff. So this is just a continuation of that. So it's the same
Same
kind
with
of
me.
kid-like motivation about doing cool stuff. And it's right now, like I think or for me, I'm in a place where I wouldn't really change much if I could. I'm pretty much in the optimum, job that I can think of for myself, and that's something that's I'm very lucky to be in. But yeah, if you can kind of envision yourself somewhere, kind of try to project into the future. For example, with cloud computing, is there like a skill that you would like to have? Is there maybe a job role? Would you like to become I don't know, a site reliability engineer? Then that could be the motivation to maybe go through the stuff that is required, but not that interesting for that thing. Like with you, I think we've been talking about networking. That's something that you don't know
My
or
favorite
well,
topic. Yeah.
yeah, and hate. So, but you know that you have to
Here.
study it to
So
be
we can
able to
cross out the
get.
network maintenance. We can get that out of the list. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's kind of one way to motivate yourself. And then if there is no such thing in the future that you're looking forward to, then of course it's fair to ask, well, why are you then studying this? Yeah.
Yeah. So motivation is important. If you don't have motivation, it's really hard to continue doing something that's not that interesting. If you have the motivation, you have a different goal, like a larger goal in your mind, then as an adult, you know that there are certain topics or things that you have to do in between, which are not that interesting or might be really hard, but you just have to push through. And if you have the motivation, then that's not a problem, or hopefully not too big of a problem. But there are other things that as well that motivates us in general. Uh, so maybe you just want to learn new things, but maybe it's money. Just in maybe money is something. For example, that let's say you want to double your income to give you and your family a better life. I would say I'm not saying that that's a wrong motivation, because that could be a really strong motivation to go from somewhere where things are not that great to some other place where things are much better off. Let's say, depending on the country. In Finland, it's no need to talk about healthcare. Everybody gets the good basic healthcare. That's not a problem. But still, money could be a motivation, at least for young people, when they haven't decided anything about the future, and they have no idea where they want to go. They don't know if they are if IT is the thing,
Mhm.
or is it arts or law or healthcare?
Yeah,
But I would
just
say that
even
money is one of the things that guides. They look at that, or someone else tells them, okay, in this field, this is the average income or median income, and does that look good for you?
yeah, even kind of the availability of jobs, right? So we kind of know that right now, there's quite a big requirements for kind of the basic IT jobs like IT support and that kind of stuff. There are a lot of openings in there, and it's kind of a fairly simple way to make reasonable income, right? So it's a nice indoors job, you know. It's not weather dependent usually.
Constant temperature.
Yeah, and well, it depends if you need to go into the data
Oh
center.
yeah.
But
And then it's loud as well.
yeah, so but yeah, so there is this kind of this is actually interesting. I've been talking about this on a different podcast with Fatima before. So there are these ways for people to change into IT, and there are different cloud providers who are providing programs for that. And they don't necessarily lead to working for that IT provider. It's more about like taking people who maybe have made a career in the military and then they're discharged. So they're basically in their prime age, they're in their 30s, but suddenly they don't have a job and they don't really have any skills for employment, right? It kind of depends on what you did. But
Yeah.
if you're just a basic soldier, then you know how to shoot. Well, there are not that many jobs available for
In
where
indoor
that's required,
jobs. Yeah.
right? So
So yeah,
in
you need to learn
IT,
something new.
yeah, in IT, you get to a fairly good income, with fairly minimal training, and then somebody who's been in the military might actually already have quite a lot of those soft skills that you just mentioned, because they have had to already work with people
Mhm.
who they don't know beforehand, that are just random people and different kinds of people, and they've been in lots of situations where they needed to solve basically like a social puzzle, right?
And here's one before you continue on my list. One of the things that are important skills in general is problem solving,
Yeah.
ability to solve problems.
Yeah, exactly. So there are these ways to get into IT from a different background, and I guess as we are in some kind of a industrial revolution again, like moving from for experts, like moving from generating text to selecting or editing text that is being generated on your behalf. So there might be a need for a shift for people to move from more traditional employment towards IT as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I hope the advancement in technology will provide more jobs and not just they are just not the same jobs that we already have, but something.
Yeah, everybody that used to be I don't know, a paralegal in the US just becomes a prompt engineer instead.
Yeah. For example. For example. One moment. So what else? What else? Customer service. That this doesn't. This doesn't. This is not limited to IT at all. Are you able to talk with your customers? Are you able to
Yeah,
handle the tricky situations as well where something is not working perfectly and the customer is not contacting you to praise you, but to complete opposite, something is wrong and you need to able to solve that without losing that customer in general. Or if it's about talking to a new customer and trying to convince them to stick with you and you want to sell them more things and services, not going to necessarily for you being a salesperson, but in general, if you are, let's say, even as a programmer, if you are talking to your clients and customers, then you should, if you know how to do that, then the clients and customers are happy. They get good service
Yeah,
from you. You explain the problems and things to them without them uh, losing their minds because they have no idea what you're talking about. So that's a skill as well.
yeah. This we used to solve by isolating the programmers, right?
Exactly. Not all of them, but some of them at least.
Yeah. So if we had like a technical project manager, then they would act like as a proxy between the customer and the developers, kind of translating on the way, removing the expletives. And then that, of course, worked in that context, but it of course, there's less transparency. And nowadays, with agile methodologies, we're looking for more transparency. So there's a kind of a more pressure for everybody on the team to be able to talk to the customer, and it's more important nowadays than it used to originally.
I remember from the past, this was not only about protecting the customer from the programmers, but it was also protecting the programmers from the customer. Because when
Yeah, so
we didn't
taking
have
away the
proper way of working, then the customer might be contacting directly the programmer and asking for new features, which,
yeah,
let's say, basically bluntly put, were not paid for.
yeah, and
For
then
example.
also stress management, deadline management.
Yeah.
So
So it was a two-way protection there. But nowadays, as you said, Johannes, uh, probably you want your workforce to be able to talk with the clients as well.
yeah, we've learned that it's much the end result, the quality is much higher if we do quick iterations of an agile process,
But
because
still
we
in
have
the, in but still in a way that the project is not dependent on this one person who is able to talk with the customer.
exactly.
So if it's about that one person, then you are. I'm not saying you're doing things wrong, but you might end up in a situation where this one person leaves the company one way or the other, and then
Yeah,
things go
it's
downhill.
very risky, both from that point of view that everything is on one person. So what happens when they're ill or something? But also because the true state of the project is only known to that one person, because they could be painting a different picture to different sides. And then
I actually
that
remember from one of the previous clients that they rotated people from project to project, and at first it sounded like a kind of a stupid thing to do because there's always one new person there, and it takes time for them to know what's happening in the project, and because the projects are massive, there could be like not well, let's not say millions of lines, but hundreds of thousands of lines of code. And when a new person comes in, they are completely lost. But in the long run, everybody was able to handle, not every project, but there were several people who were able to handle any project. And that's a really good situation to be in.
Yeah,
But it
that's
slows
actually,
things down in the beginning.
yeah, no, that's a good practice. So what you could think of that is being like a test case for adding a person into the project, right?
Yeah.
So if you do that all of the time, then you kind of make sure that the documentation of that project is up to date, and that all of the processes on how to get develop an environment or whatever are up to date, because you know that you're constantly going to have new people there. Whereas if you don't do that, then you might be just thinking that everybody of course knows how this works, right? Everybody implicitly knows how things work, and then when you do get a new person in your project, then you don't have any of the things in place that they actually
I think
require.
other industries are better at in rotating people around and like from one position to another, even to, I don't know, completely different place. In Finland, you don't rotate people to different cities or other parts, but I don't know, maybe somewhere else they even do that.
Well, Amazon does a lot of rotation. I see that when I do courses for them, like AWS courses, where the customers are from Amazon, because we get a lot of people that are coming from like outside of AWS, intending to move to AWS. And Amazon has like a gazillion of different things. There are people that are like like physically doing work in a logistics center, like getting packets, but also in IT. Like there are people that are working for Amazon Payments that are doing payment stuff, and then they want to move over to AWS. So in AWS, I guess, or in Amazon in general, I guess you're supposed to change your job roughly every 2 or 3 years, just to kind of exactly do that. Get new views from different parts of the company into a project, but also to keep all of the kind of documentation in place so that every project is ready to take in new stuff.
I just popped into my mind the term that I was looking for. It was called CRM, Cockpit Resource Management.
Yeah.
And that's the metric that they going back to the beginning of this episode there. That's the thing that is measured, that if that's good, then you don't crash your plane. And that's encouraged. And the same thing should be encouraged in other fields as well. That you should be able to open your mouth and say that you disagree with something without that being punished, or without that. Of course, if you do that every time somebody talks, you become that annoying person nobody wants to talk with or work with. I'm looking at you, Johannes, but I'm not meaning. I don't. I don't mean
You
you.
don't necessarily mean me.
You're the only one I see now, so that's why I'm looking at you.
Yeah. Also, about that, there is this, of course, this blameless culture. So it's like when things go wrong, not if, because things always go wrong. When things go wrong, instead of trying to blame that onto some person, rather take the learning from it. So okay, what went wrong? Why did it go wrong? And how can we make sure that we don't make the same mistake again? Kind of think of it the other way around. Kind of be grateful for the mistake that has been made, because it has shown a weakness in your process, and now you have the possibility to fix that.
If only everybody saw it like that.
You can teach them.
When I was kind of trying to figure out what's the topic for this day, I was also thinking about the future of work in the IT industry, but that this probably applies to many other industries as well. So things have changed a little bit, because we are working remotely quite a lot. I don't know how much. I haven't seen any recent reports how much we are going back to the office. I have no interest in going back to the office, first of all, because we don't have an office right now. But in general, so it works in some fields. But how you think that has changed? What are the skills that you should have if you want to work efficiently and you really
I think
you are productive as productive when you're working from let's say home?
Yeah, I think it's
Are there any skills for that?
I think it's the same skills, but we just see different kind of or maybe the prioritization is different with remote work. So because the communication is different, instead of doing face-to-face communications, a lot of kind of informal communication, we now need to do it more formally. We need to write at least chat messages in Slack or something like that. So the communication is different, and you need to make sure that it still happens. So we need to enable, from an organizational point of view, this kind of informal communication, that it still happens. And then as workers, we need to remember to communicate. This is also something that we are working on literally with you, Mikko, like our daily channel on Slack and stuff like that. So there are methods to get there. Then, of course, you need to be better in doing independent work, right? So there is less chance of somebody micromanaging you. So that you need to more take responsibility of some kind of task that you're doing, and then do it yourself, and so on.
That is actually working independently when you have the motivation and you're doing something that you really enjoy to the point where it doesn't even feel like it's work. That's super easy.
Yeah.
But you don't always have that kind of tasks in front of you. Or you have, you could have 10 tasks and none of them are that interesting to you, and you still have to do them. And that, when you're working independently from home without too much oversight, without nobody's looking at you like right now, then are you able to do that? That's a skill.
Yeah,
I'm
I have this
struggling with that
rule.
sometimes.
Yeah, I have this rule: always start with the least attractive task.
So you call me in the morning always.
Just because the
Yeah,
stuff that you like to do, you will do anyway, right? So kind of start with the stuff that you don't like to do them first, and then you kind of
that is a good way. And this is funny thing. If the task actually takes 2 minutes, but it's something that you don't want to do, it's just 2 minutes, an annoying email or something that you need to do, then it actually costs you way more than two. This is my own theory. It costs you way more than 2 minutes of time if you postpone it and you postpone it. So just the act of postponing takes more than 2 minutes if you do it enough times. And it's in the back of your head that I should be doing that. So it's annoying you. And that's kind of making you less efficient on some other things.
it might lead to stress as well.
Yeah, that's probably the word I was looking for. You're the one with the fancy words. So that actually, so you should tackle the most annoying task whenever you start to work. Let's say in the morning, and then start with that, and then it's done.
Yeah,
And
we then have
usually, when you actually finally do it, you realize that why didn't I do this 2 weeks earlier? Why didn't I
exactly.
just do it?
Yeah, and then have some kind of routines. Like if you're not a very good morning person, it might be difficult to start with the annoying task first, but then have some routine that you do, some other stuff until 10 o'clock, and then at 10 you start with the most annoying task that you have. That helps.
One really skill that this is actually not on my list, but I just invented, is time management. And and we're running out of time.
Yeah.
So time management is something you should be able to know when to finish whichever task you're doing, and not to continue perfecting it until it's ready, because some things are never ready. And that's actually one. With programming, with writing your test cases, or when you're editing your photos or something, you need to know when to stop.
And again, with the agile methodologies, this is under better control than what it was originally.
Yeah. So should we call it a day, or do you have something else?
We're over an hour already, so I think we have to stop now. It was interesting as always. Please do give feedback, our dear listeners or viewers, in case there's a topic that you want to hear about, or you have specific comments about what we're saying over here. Feel free to send us a message. We're happy to take that into account in future episodes. But otherwise, I think this is it for us today. Thanks a lot for listening and or viewing, and see you again not tomorrow, next week. So we're available every Saturday at noon, live on YouTube and Twitch and Twitter.
And you're doing with Fatima as well some shows as well.
We have another stream, IT with Fatima, where we're going over things maybe from a more beginner point of view. So this is more for our advanced listeners or viewers. So, but yeah, that comes out every Sunday at 4 p.m. And all of these times are GMT, so the UK time zone. But yeah, although after that, these are of course available as podcasts everywhere. But yeah, thanks a lot for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mikko, for the interesting topic, and see you again next week. Till then,
You.
bye.
Bye-bye.